For more than 9 hours, Oyub Titiev was forced to stand in a cage in a heavily guarded courtroom to listen to the verdict. Relatives, human rights activists and diplomats had come to Shali, a town near the Chechen capital Grozny, to support him against criminal charges they've dismissed as absurd. Titiev was arrested early 2018 after police say they found marijuana in his car. The head of the Chechen branch of Russia's main human rights organization, Memorial, denied the drugs were his.
This case was fabricated, as you know. 27 of our legal arguments were rejected. What can I say? The verdict was guilty. How can it be fair?
The authorities in Chechnya did not respond to a request to comment on Titiev's case.
I think the best way to understand the circumstances of his arrest is to read a fantasy novel about unicorns, fairy dust, and pixies, because that's the degree of reality that you'll see in the evidence that's been concocted against him.
Titiev was investigating cases of torture and extrajudicial killings at the time of his arrest. He had continued the work after his predecessor Natalia Estimirova was murdered 10 years ago.
This is not about the verdict, but about Oyub's criminal prosecution, about the fact that the drugs were planted and that it was impossible to prove his innocence. After the drugs were planted in his car, drugs were also planted in our office. This means that they are ready to use any possible measures against independent human rights defender.
While prosecutors had asked for a 4-year prison sentence, the judge decided that Titiev can serve his time in a so-called colony settlement, which will give him some freedom.
Oyub Titiev has called this trial a new level of hypocrisy and cynicism. His prison sentence is seen as a strong message to human rights defenders to stay away from Chechnya, marking a new phase in the crackdown by Chechen authorities against opposing voices.
Chechnya's leader, Ramzan Kadyrov, has announced that after the trial, human rights defenders will be no longer welcome here, raising serious concerns about an increase of abuses in a region that has come under international scrutiny for its poor human rights record already. Vaessen, Al Jazeera, Chechnya.